guys? I'm Claire. Pastor Joe, thank you so much for asking me to speak. It's so lovely to be here, and to share my experience, strength, and hope with you guys. So I secretary a meeting. We have it in the chapel. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful to this church for letting us come and get together, this last year. I'm sure it was hard for all of you. It was really hard for me to be isolated and to be alone. And I used to love to isolate and I love to be alone. And I've been sober since July 12th, 2017. I got sober when I was 22 years old. I got sober out in Los Angeles. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. So I have a lot of, Southern roots, and I love Charlotte, and, it's like I loved growing up there. But what I can tell you is that, from the second I came into this world, like my first conscious memories were like fear and discomfort. I just felt like I did not belong in the skin that I had. And I would look around at people and as a young child, I would look around at people like having friends and talking to people and showing up. And I just couldn't understand how everyone else was able to handle life, when I was about 6, 7 years old, I got really scared to go to sleep at night. And I was just so petrified of going to sleep at night. And I wasn't afraid because I was afraid I was going to die. And I wasn't afraid of dying and being dead, but I was afraid that if I died, I was going to go to heaven and I was going to live forever. And my conception at that time of what heaven was that it was like a never-ending place. And at 6 years old, I was so uncomfortable. And, the world that I lived in and the brain that I had, with all of my external circumstances, that I didn't want that, right? It's like I just wanted a break. I always just felt like I wanted a break. And, my mother would come in and she'd be like, Claire, like heaven's just like Mexico. There's an all-you-can-eat buffet. There's soft serve ice cream. I'm not sure that's verified, but she did whatever she could to like get me to go to sleep at night. And that's just what it was like for me. And I just felt extremely uncomfortable and I felt so detached from other people and so separate from, and I really had no conception of of a higher power or of God or of like unconditional love or anything like that. And, my parents loved me and they wanted me and I just felt unloved and unwanted. And that really, and so for me, what happened was that I ended up turning to drugs and alcohol and pretty much everything else that I could do because I just wanted to check out. I just wanted a break. I didn't want to exist in this world. I didn't know how you guys did it. And I didn't want to have to do that. I just wanted a break. I wanted someone to take the volume in my head and turn it down. And I thought that my only solution for that was in drugs and alcohol, and it got worse, never better. Like what happened was I had completely, by the time I got sober at 22, which I can tell you at 22, like that wasn't in my plan, right? I didn't think that was in my plan. I really thought that there was no other way for me to live life. I thought that I got to this point where, I couldn't imagine my life with alcohol and I couldn't imagine my life without it. And, I'd isolated myself from everyone. I'd moved across the country because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be near my family. I didn't want to be near my friends. I thought that everyone else was the problem. People just needed to leave me alone. And I had known, and I had no conception of a higher power. I had no conception of, like what it meant to be of service and to be loving and to show up in this world in an honest and authentic way. I just didn't have that. I was so completely shut down from, like, as we say in the 12-step program, from the sunlight of the spirit. I just didn't have any of that in me. And I identify now as someone who is always a seeker, right? Like I was born with the fundamental belief that there's a God that wants good for me out there, right? But the more that I continued to go, to isolate myself and to, turn to drugs and alcohol, the farther away I got from that spiritual ideal, and I couldn't find my way back. And thankfully on July 12th, 2017, I really, that's the last time I ever drank, that's the day that my sobriety started. And it's like been the most amazing journey for me. And what happened was it was just another night, right? It was just another night. And I'd woken up plenty of times in the morning and been like, I'm never going to do that again, But what happened was I was out wandering around Westwood, and I got back to my apartment and I came to in the middle of a blackout. And I knew, like deep in my core, I knew that I was going to be okay, but I could never drink again. And like that thought had never come from me before. I knew that wasn't my thought. I knew it didn't originate from me. It came from something else. And I now identify that as coming from like my higher power, whom I choose to call God, right? It's like I understand that was God speaking through me. And, letting me know, like, it was going to be okay, but I could never drink again. And it was I knew deep down in my core that was the truth. And I knew that if I could just, if I could get help and if I could go and change my life, like, I was going to be okay. But drugs and alcohol were no longer a solution and they had stopped working for me, right? Like, the relief that I was getting was no longer working. And so what happened was that I came, I joined a 12-step fellowship and I worked the steps in that fellowship and I found a woman who could take me through them. And she gave me just, like, so many amazing and beautiful gifts. And my life has just changed and grown so much today. You know, I was a fear-ridden, very scared little girl. I had no, I just felt so apart from and so disconnected from, and I don't feel that way today. You know, it's like today I've learned from being sober and from finding a relationship with a higher power, like how to show up, right? How to show up for people. You know, how to show up for myself, right? How to be a productive member of society. I had no relationship with my family when I came in here. You know, I didn't talk to my sister for the first 2 years after I got sober, and today we have this beautiful relationship. I was a terrible employee. I couldn't show up for work, and today I have a great job, and you know, I'm a good employee, and I'm friends with all the people that I work with. But one of the greatest gifts of my life is this relationship that I have with God. And it really was like, it's like I thank God for giving me Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thank Alcoholics Anonymous for giving me God, because what happened was when I came into the rooms, I had this woman, and she was so loving and so kind, and what she really did for me was she always directed me to my higher power. You know, I'd come to her with a problem, and I'd be like, X, Y, and Z said this to me, and like, what do I say? And she would just be like, go to God, go to God. And what I've learned is that like I can always depend upon my higher power. And there's this piece, I want to read something out of, this is our literature in the 12-step program, but it says, on page 68, it says, we never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of all ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. We ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear. And that's probably one of my favorite passages of this book, you know, because I really do think I was someone who, you know, when I came in to the 12-step program, when I got sober, I had so much shame around God. I really did. I had so much shame around the spirituality and God, and you know, because I wanted to be self-sufficient. Like I really wanted to be able to handle things on my own. And I always wished that I could, you know, it's like that's what I had tried for years. I had tried to just manage and control my life, manage and control your life, manage and control every single thing around me. And I can tell you that it didn't work, right? It didn't work for a second. And sometimes I would get my way for a little bit, but ultimately it would always be taken from me, right? Because anything that's not mine to have is not going to be mine to have. And what I learned when I came in here is that, like, it's you know, it really is the greatest strength that I have to have a God of my own understanding. Because I know that I fundamentally believe that there's a God out there that wants good for me. And I know that if I can turn my will and my life over to him, then everything will be okay, right? It's like I don't have to focus on all of the little stuff, right? I don't have to focus on what I'm, like, you know, on what you're doing or what I think is my life should look like, or if I do X, Y, and Z. I just focus on doing God's work, and I let him do mine. And that's how I really try to live every single day. You know, I wake up and I ask God to walk with me, sit by me, speak through me, help me to be of maximum service to you and to my fellow men. And I've learned so much by that, right? So much by just taking my, you know, it's like taking a step back, taking my hands off the wheel and letting God, you know, work through me however he sees fit. You know, and as someone who is extremely fear-ridden, like I understand today that, like, I can either choose to be in faith or I can choose to be in fear. You know, and I used to be so hard on myself about all of this black and white thinking. Am I good? Am I bad? Is this right? Or is this wrong? And what I've learned from being sober and you know, not doing anything perfectly, because I know I will never do this life perfectly, but I always try. I think about all of my decisions and whether or not they're getting me closer to God or farther away from God, you know? And it really is about that. It's not about whether I'm good or I'm bad or I'm right or I'm wrong. It's about, like, is what I'm doing right now serving my greatest good, which is to get to the spiritual ideal, or is it not? And sometimes I am, right? Like sometimes I walk around the world and I feel like a spiritual giant. And sometimes I walk around this world and you know, it's like I'm doing things that, you know, I have shame about or guilt about or whatever. But what I've learned is that every single thing that happens to me, no matter how bad it might seem at the time, is something that gets me closer to God. And this past year, you know, I think I'm sure it's been tough for everyone. It was extremely tough for me. And I had a lot of times in the last year where I would sit, you know, in my apartment and I would just be like, why? You know, like, why is this happening? Why is, you know, X, Y, and Z not going my way? Like, why do I feel like this? What, you know, I'm like, I feel like I should have transcended that. And what was happening was I was trying to manage and control everything, you know, like I was taking the reins. I was trying to do everything on my own. I wasn't trusting in God, you know, because I have this belief of God, right? But the work for me is really learning every day to trust, because it's not enough just to believe, right? For me, I really have to trust. I have to trust that there's a God out there that wants good for me. And I have to trust that if I turn my will and my life over, that things will work out. And, ultimately all of the stuff that I've been through that has been really hard and really painful is the stuff that's brought me closer to God. And because of that relationship and because of that connection, it's like I'm a better sister, I'm a better daughter, I'm a better friend, I'm a better, employee, I'm a better member of society. And it's so important for me that I always try to be of service. I'm so grateful to come here and to speak, and share my experience, strength, and hope, because it really is. It's like, if this is where God wants me right now, then this is where I am, and it's as simple as that. It's like, I just do the next indicated action. I show up wherever I'm needed, and life unfolds exactly how it's supposed to be. And service has been such a big part of my life, because when I came in here, I had no self-esteem. I felt like I had no purpose. I really couldn't, I could not show up for anything or anyone. And what I've learned to do here is just to take contrary action, and to go wherever I'm needed and to help other people. And that's both in my 12-step community and outside of the world, because when I keep service in the forefront of my mind and I show up in this world as someone who's just trying to give back and not take, then I'm a better person. I just am. And I make the world a better place, I think. And not always, but I'm not perfect, but, I really do. Like, I always want to, it's like, I want to leave the world better than I found it, and I want to go into every single day and see how I can give instead of take. Cause I used to be a taker. And what I've learned is like that just gets me farther away from what I want, right? It gets me to this place of like desperation and pain and fear. And, it's like, that's when my monkey mind starts going, right? It's like, I know how spiritually fit I am based on like how late I stay up at night thinking about stuff that I can't control, and it's such a good axiom for me to see like, where's my spiritual fitness? And when it does get out of whack, it's just a quick fix, right? I don't have to spin out about the things that I should be doing or the things that I shouldn't be doing, or what I said earlier or what he said to me or anything like that. I just have to remember that like, I can bring God into any situation. And if God walks with me and he sits by me and he talks through me, and I continue to do his work and let him do mine, then everything else is just gravy. It's like everything else is good. And I think and I really do, like, I love when it says, like, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do, and that's just how I try to show up in this world today is, we say in the 12-step program, I'm a member of It's Attraction, not promotion. I just come and it's like, however I show up it's like, I want that to be, it's like, I want people, if I'm the only big book someone ever sees, right? If I'm the only person that someone ever sees in a 12-step program, I want them to know that like this thing works, and I want them to see how it's changed my life. And I want them to see that I'm a different person today than I used to be. And that's a direct result of working the steps and getting really clear about, where are the ways in which I've acted out, and how do I change my behavior and how do I right all of my wrongs, and then how do I continue to show up and to be of service and to find a higher power, and I don't know how long I've been talking, but 2 minutes. I feel so grateful for my life today. And I can tell you that I didn't always feel like that. When I was 22, I wanted to die by 30. I just did, right? I could not imagine a life in which I lived past 30 because I was just so miserable, and I come here and I found that like, there is this limitless world, right? If I choose to be a member of it, if I choose to participate in my life, if I choose to turn my will and my life over to the care of a loving God, then I can have anything I want to, and that's really beautiful. Like my greatest ideas and plans for me was like die by 30, and today it's like I don't even know, it's like I have limitless possibilities and options out there that I can have if I choose, if I choose to every single day wake up and show up to the best of my ability. And that doesn't mean that I don't falter and I don't do things imperfectly. It just means that I'm here to constantly grow and to learn. And it's just been such a gift in my life. And I feel so grateful to be here and be able to share that with you guys. And yeah, thank you so much, Pastor Joe and Cindy. And it's so great to be here.